This is going to be a really great lesson. We're going to cover JSON prompting, which is a very popular technique and it comes in handy in all sorts of use cases. So let's go ahead and actually just jump right into prompting, and then we'll add a little bit of color to JSON. You know what we should actually do? We did this for Markdown, but this is just a basic explainer of JSON. So JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Basically, the kind of TLDR here, if you want to read through this, you're more than welcome to. But the basic idea is that JSON is a very common format for exchanging data, right? So one of the ways you might see this, for example, if you use the OpenAI API, or really most APIs these days, the way that data is going to get back to you is going to be in JSON format. So it's one of those very nice, highly structured data formats that LLMs are exceptionally good at handling. And one of the really cool things is that models, just like the ones we're working with, and this is a nice thing because it's not just specific to OpenAI. The Anthropic models, the Google models, the XAI models, right? All of the kind of most popular models right now, they all have JSON format built in to the API, which is really cool. And even if models don't, right, maybe you're running like a local model or something, models are just inherently very good at working with JSON. So even if they don't have a strict JSON output mode, models can do it anyways. But the point here is that we want to kind of teach you when and why and how to use that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to take a look. So in the guide below, we'll have this sample data for you. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this in the user message really quick. And if you kind of see it right here, it's just a bunch of basically mock data of a bunch of flights. It's basically like simulating almost like an article listing flights. We've included a lot of really detailed information, which is probably not super representative of an article you'd see in real life. But the point is we want to show you kind of why JSON matters and how you can use it for some of these things. It's also worth noting that JSON, something like this wouldn't just work with text. You could even do, if you were looking at like the Google Flights tool and you just screenshotted the flights, sent that image in and asked it to extract the JSON, that would work as well. But let's actually talk about how you might go about this. So let's start with kind of a bad prompt and we'll work our way up here. So I do generate JSON with flight details. Okay. And if I just hit run on this, it's basically going to try and generate some sort of JSON. So again, this is this triple backtick with JSON is just a markdown code block. So it's basically giving us a code block in JSON format, which is expected. And you can see one of the things it's basically doing is it's just taking all of our text that's in here, and it's basically trying to grab for each flight, all of these different keys, right? So we have the airline, the flight, and its value, right? Each one of these is called a key value pair in JSON. So those of you who are developers are obviously familiar with this, but those of you who are not, it's going to be a little bit of a new concept for you, probably key value pairs. But right, you can see the key in this case is price, and then the value is $249.99, right? And so you can see for each one of the flights that's sort of mentioned in this simulated article, it's extracting the JSON for it. But the problem with our prompt here is that it is not specific. So the AI model is basically just inferring what pieces of data to grab from this, which in this case, because we've simulated this example to be very precise with what data is included, it's going to actually pretty much get the schema right. But what we want to show you is just kind of how you can forcefully do that, including the just text-based prompting as well as the JSON schema response format that you'll see in a lot of these really popular LLM APIs. So let's go ahead and try and make this prompt a little bit better. So kind of using the anatomy of good prompts, right? Let's give it a role. You are a data, and now let's do data engineer working on a flight booking system. And let's just say, please output a valid JSON object. Okay, so this is often referred to as a JSON object or a JSON schema. Those terms are kind of interchangeable. And we'll just say containing flight details. The JSON should have the following keys. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to copy and paste some of the keys that I want us to work with here. So you'll see in our prompt, we're specifying all of the different keys. Again, remember, if I scroll down here in each one of these individual objects, right, these are key value pairs. So the left side, these are the keys, right? Airline, flight number, departure airport, etc. Those are the keys. So what we're doing in our prompt is we're specifying all of the keys as well as the data type that we want to work with. And not only are we going to specify the key name and the data type that we want to work with, but we're also going to say, let's add kind of an extra requirement that says do not include any text or formatting outside the JSON object, just so we don't get, one of the things you'll notice with models sometimes is they may do something that says like, hey, here's the JSON that you just asked for, right? Something like that. And then they'll give you the JSON. We just want to get right to it. So one of the things that we could do, right, is we could give an example response, right? We've mentioned example-based prompting, few shot prompting, that kind of thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste an example of what one of the objects should look like in our JSON object that returns the flight, right? Okay, so what we can do here is now, if I get rid of the generation here and just run this again, you'll notice that we're getting JSON again here. You can see it's, come on, give me some more tokens here. It's trying to work. There we go. Okay, but you can see we're getting the JSON, which is really good. If the hopefully the OpenAI API is not down, it looks like we're lagging a little bit here. But one of the things, and I'm actually really glad this happened, is you can see the assistant only outputted one flight. So one of the things that you'll want to specify is, you can see how in the example we only included one flight. Well, one of the things the model might have inferred, right, and this is kind of a door rule based scenario, is that the model thought, okay, it looks like they just want one flight, so I'm just going to give them one flight. So one of the things that we would want to specify here is example, and then in parentheses I might say like, make sure to return an array of all the flights. Okay, and then if we get rid of this bad response and we run this again, we should now get something that looks like an array. Okay, but even this in particular isn't necessarily valid JSON format, right? And so what we would probably want to do, right, is we would probably want to actually do something like this, which is we would want to change the example to be something like flights, and then we would do an array here, which is just these open and closing square brackets here, and then I would do something like underscore underscore rest of flights underscore underscore. And now, if we run this again, okay, we're continuing to improve the prompt. Now, the model is going to get us an actual JSON schema, which has one key, which is flights, which is an array of individual flights. So now we're actually getting what we wanted. Okay, so you can see how being specific about the format there and really defining that, right? This is all prompting work, right? This is why becoming a good prompter is so important, because you might, have run the first version like, the model can't do it. And it's like, well, no, the model can do it. It's just you weren't giving it correct instructions. So that is kind of the text-based way to get JSON. So as you can see, like one of the great use cases of JSON, and we'll probably talk about a few of the good use cases in specific lessons, right? We're kind of covering data extraction, which is obviously really powerful. But you can do all sorts of things. Like one of the things, actually I'll save those things for separate lessons. But I do want to talk about response format. So we were kind of doing text-based JSON formatting. So if I get rid of this assistant message, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to specify this format here. And this is one of the reasons why I recommend the OpenAI playground, just because it's very fully featured and you can do all sorts of cool stuff. So if I go to JSON schema, you know what I'm actually going to do? I'm going to copy this. You'll see why. If you're following along, copy this with me. I'll show you why. So what we want to do is go to JSON schema, and what we have to do is we can actually define a specific schema that the model should output based on kind of this spec that's very common across model providers. And one of the cool things about the OpenAI playground is you can click generate and just paste in your prompt. And if you do create, it will actually generate that correct schema for us, which is super cool, super helpful, saves us some time because this can be a little bit finicky. And you can see, if you want to kind of read through that, it's fine. It's more or less what we have, but with a couple of the extra properties that the OpenAI API requires. And then we can hit save. what's going to happen here is if we hit run again, we're actually going to get a schema that adheres to the one that we specified for the API. So you can see we're now getting something that's a direct JSON response. So we're going to get more into some of the specific use cases of JSON prompting, but this is a really powerful paradigm. There's all sorts of stuff that you can use this for, but just on some of the general prompting tips, right? It's good for structured data. It has great model compatibility, right? Models are really good at JSON, and most of the common APIs have some sort of JSON schema format. It's great for validation and parsing, similar to XML, right? You can do a lot of different things with validation in JSON. There's all sorts of cool things that you can do here, which again, we're going to get into in specific lessons. But this is just sort of an example of how to structure those prompts, a little bit of text response format versus JSON schema response format to hopefully kind of get you up to speed here. So I do recommend that you play around with this. And this comes in handy all the time. Just like XML prompting is one of my favorite things, JSON prompting is one of my favorite things as well.